Oh, hey there. I want to tell you a wonderful story about a man named Abraham. And there's a good lesson in here for us too. Abraham, when he was younger, his name was Abram. But God said, I need you to leave the land that you're at and follow me. And so he did. And when he did, he got a new name, and it was Abraham. Now, he wanted a son more than anything. And God promised him, your descendants will be as much as the sand of the seashore or the stars in the sky. That's a lot in case you're not good with math. But a lot of time passed. And as it did pass, it seemed less and less likely that God was going to come true with his promise. And so as much as he talked about it, his wife, Sarah, said, look, I'm way past menopause. Why don't you go sleep with a maidservant if you want a son so bad? Let's pause right there. This was common practice. However, probably not the best thing to do, okay? And even though other people were doing it, it doesn't mean that it was right. That's important to note. Now, Abraham agrees to this. Probably shouldn't have agreed to this, but he did. Now, because he did, he sleeps with the maidservant, Hagar. They have a son named Ishmael, okay? Some time passes. Sarah gets very jealous. You had a baby and I couldn't, blah, blah, blah. I don't like you, whatever. Get them out of my house. So Abraham has to go to them and say, look, I'm sorry. Good luck with your life. I probably won't see you later, but my wife doesn't like you and you're causing problems here, so goodbye. So off they go. Some more time passes and they have a son named Isaac, Sarah and Abraham, even though Sarah's 90 years old. Abraham is the father of Isaac. Isaac is the father of Jacob and Esau. Jacob later changes his name to Israel. Israel has 12 sons. Those are the 12 tribes of Israel. So from that lineage, all the Jews come out of that, okay? All the Jewish people, all the Israelites come from Israel, and Israel was Jacob, and his grandfather was Abraham. Interesting. But all the Muslims, if you're talking about genetically, right? Most of the people that we would call Muslims today, those came from Ishmael, okay? So those two groups of people have been fighting for 4,000 years. They have been at odds with each other for 4,000, killing each other for 4,000 years, more than 4,000 years, which is a long time in case you're not good with math. And this leads us to an important point, okay? Sometimes we think, God told me that I could have this and I want it, and he's not giving it to me in the right time, so I'm gonna take matters into my own hands. I'm gonna do what I want, I'm gonna get what I want, and that's the way that God's gonna fulfill his promise to me. Maybe don't force his hand, because out of that, what we would today call sin, and probably back then was sin too, he slept with the maidservant, and that made enemies for his lineage forever. I mean, they were enemies forever, like to this day. They still hate each other. They still kill each other. And they're basically cousins. They're half brothers, if you will, okay? So it's an interesting story, but I think it's also interesting that sin has long-lasting consequences, that we look thousands of years later and we go, that's still going on, huh? And you're like, yeah, maybe you should have chose better. And it's easy to criticize him after the fact. But what about us? We should have chose better. When we look around and we go, it's common practice to do this, it's not that big of a deal. It is that big of a deal. And if somebody's like, take matters in your own hands. If God said it, then you should be able to do it. Maybe not. Maybe wait for God. It takes longer, I get that, but it's worth it. And we don't have those ripples that last for eternity that have bad effects. I hope that helps. Love you guys.